You might think you're alone, but then you hear it, scraping claws, a hiss that drives chills down your spine. Somehow, it already knows exactly where you are. No eyes and no pupils. Yet you're never out of its sights. So, exactly how do these nightmarish creatures, first unleashed in Alien 1979, manage to hunt with such flawless precision and take down their target with no eyes? The answer, beyond just regular biology and build, leads to something darker. Stick around as we uncover this terrifying secret of the Xenomorph. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The myth of the eyeless predators. What adds to making the Xenomorphs appear even more unsettling than they already are is the fact that they do not possess any eyes. At least not in the literal sense. No pupils, no eye sockets, nothing that gives away where they might be looking, which only adds to their haunting aura. And this is exactly what H.R. Giger, the visionary artist behind the original Alien, 1979, envisioned. According to him, the choice of not including visible eyes in the character's design would also strip away any chance of empathy or connection, and also make them all the more scary, with no eyes to give away the creature's intentions. And add to that the fact that you can't tell if it's seen you or not. Adds to the predator-prey narrative, with you, the prey, not having the upper hand in predicting its next move. Interestingly, the very first version of the Alien did include a subtle human skull tucked beneath its translucent dome in later films. However, this detail seemed to get watered down, although parts of it resurfaced in Alien Isolation, which did justice to and recreated Giger's original nightmare. Then came hybrids, like the newborn from Alien Resurrection, which sprouted actual eyes, a result of the mixed human DNA, making them seem even more unsettling and eerie in a whole other way. The franchise did drop hints about how they might see from the Xenomorph's POV, even without the eye sockets, but we'll get to that soon enough. Games and novelizations have offered even more theories, ranging from echolocation, like perception, to heat signatures, and even electrical sensitivity, similar to how sharks detect prey through impulses in the water. Some sources also suggest that the Xenomorphs might detect vibrations or sounds in their environment, giving them spatial awareness to stalk and hunt their prey, even in total darkness. How movies and games show Xenomorph vision. While most of the time, the films are filmed from an outside POV, they are indeed moments where we are granted an insight into the action, straight from the eyes of the Xenomorphs. These POVs, however, are not regular, but warped in a different way to differentiate them from regular vision. This adds to the unsettling aspect, while also highlighting that the Xenomorphs don't perceive the world as we humans do. Xenomorph Runner Vision on Fury 161. The first time the audience truly experienced Xenomorph's POV was in Alien 3. During the climax of Fury 161, the Runner, aka the Dragon, was hunting the prisoners through the industrial leadworks. It's during this scene that the camera adopts a distorted fisheye lens for the shot, which gives the overall environment of the scene an unusually bent appearance, as we can see the alien darting along the ceilings and walls. Sometimes during the shot, the vision also seemed to flip upside down, hinting at how the Runner had the ability to defy the orientation we consider normal and see things, despite, unlike later portrayals, this view was depicted in full color, lending it a raw, animalistic edge. This also highlighted another crucial point, and that's how the Runner was aware of the queen embryo inside Ripley during this scene and hesitated to kill it. Whether this recognition came from pheromonal cues, sheer smell, or because of the specialized visual spectrum is something we'll dive into later. But it sure reinforced the idea that the Xenomorph operates on multiple levels beyond just sight to guide it. Protomorph vision on the U.S. CSS Covenant. Fast forward to Alien Covenant, when the filmmakers decided to take an even more eerie and unsettling approach to depict the sight aspect of the Xenomorph. When the protomorph appeared on the screen, its vision was shown through a membrane-like filter, as though the audience were seeing from behind a translucent wound. The pulsating veins, shifting opacity, and irregular color changes elevated the overall perspective into something truly alien. Although the fisheye effect still continued throughout this movie as well, it was layered with other textural nuances that gave it a more alive feel. And although the Covenant's flashing emergency lights likely influenced the membrane's changing hues, it also reinforced the sense that the protomorph filtered its environment in ways humans cannot comprehend. Echolocation and auditory senses. One of the most intriguing theories about how the Xenomorphs are able to see without physical eye is through echolocation, or some form of hyper-advanced auditory sense. The idea was first conceived and visualized in the 1999 Aliens vs. Predator video game, where players could control the aliens with several specialized vision modes, and one of the most prominent modes among these was the echolocation vision mode, where the environment was navigated from stark black to white contrasts, allowing the Xenomorph the ability to navigate the environment, even in darkness, with uncanny precision. This mode resembled very closely to the sensory world of the Bioraptors in Pitch Black, creatures that also lacked eyes yet were able to see with the help of sound bouncing back to them. This concept made a reappearance once again in the game's sequel, but was later dropped in later installments, but not long before sparking an online debate about the likelihood of this theory being a very logical explanation for how the Xenomorphs can see even without eyes. Now, as to how this theory works in nature, it can be seen most commonly in bats, wherein they emit high-frequency calls and measure the returning echoes to construct a virtual 3D map of their surroundings. Similarly, dolphins and whales use echolocation as well, by the use of a specialized organ called the melon, which is a fatty structure that focuses sound waves like an acoustic lens. If Xenomorphs also possess a comparable internal organ within their biomechanical skull, it can very well explain their ability to hunt flawlessly, even in total darkness. Their signature hissing could be similar to how bats function, with the screech operating as biological sonar pulses. This probable theory was also teased around in Aliens High, a limited series from Dark Horse Comics, wherein Norbert, a synthetic xenomorph that Dr. Mayakovsky creates, was highly reactive to sound waves in an almost bat-like manner in its sensory processing. If that's the case, then for xenomorphs, having no eyes isn't a weakness at all. It's instead an evolutionary advantage that makes hiding in the shadows useless for its prey. Pheromones and chemical sensing. Another compelling explanation for how xenomorphs track their prey without having eyes is through the use of pheromones and advanced chemical sensing. In nature, if we consider, ants almost entirely rely on pheromone trails to locate food, communicate danger, and ensure order in their colonies. Termites, bees, and wasps, on the other hand, use chemical signals to coordinate on a larger scale, operating on a hive mind concept. Given that xenomorphs, too, are portrayed as hive-based organisms that revolve and function around a central authority, namely the queen, it makes sense that their biology may also operate in a similar manner, through pheromone and chemical sensing. In the Alien franchise, apart from the echolocation theory, there have been multiple subtle nods to the likelihood of this possibility. For example, in Aliens, 1986, the Xenomorphs seemingly know exactly where to swarm from the hive, coordinating their attacks as if guided by an invisible network. Additionally, their ability to avoid harming the queen during the chaotic hive battles also hints at a system of chemical sensing, where each creature's scent gives out its role, status, and intent. Then, like we talked about before, the runner supposedly detected the queen embryo inside Ripley, not through physical eyes, but perhaps through sensing the pheromonal and biochemical signals that were emitted by her altered physiology. The probable use of pheromones while hunting down their prey could also make sense when it comes to the xenomorphs. Similar to how bloodhounds can track scents across miles, even these predators might be able to detect and track the adrenaline, sweat, or pheromones emitted from their prey. This would also explain why they often seem to sniff out their victims that are hiding in ducks or shadowy corners, even where visibility is nearly zero. In some extended lore, such as in Aliens Genocide, xenomorph factions were described as recognizing each other through pheromone changes, resembling the system used by insect colonies. Games such as Aliens, Colonial Marines also linger on this idea by suggesting xenomorphs use scent-based tracking when the in-game players attempt to hide or mask their presence. If this theory is in fact the reason why xenomorphs can see without their eyes, then the pheromones and chemical sensing not only offer precise navigation to the xenomorphs, but also offer a sense of communal awareness, allowing the hive to function as one unit, offering them a better predatory advantage. In that sense, vision would almost be a downgrade for them logically, since pheromonal and chemical awareness already make them predators that are not only impossible to deceive, but also impossible to hide from. Vibration, electroreception, and other senses. But there's one thing we've learned about xenomorphs. It's that they're not limited by the same sensory boundaries as humans. Beyond the two seemingly logical theories of echolocation and pheromonal tracking, some theories also exist about the creatures relying on a wide spectrum of other senses to supplement their lack of a physical pair of eyes. And one of the most probable abilities is vibration detection, similar to spiders and scorpions, which can detect the tiniest of tremors on their webs, or even reverberating off the ground. The xenomorphs can also use their elongated limbs and biomechanical exoskeletons as resonators of these vibrations. The very build of their bodies, right from their long tails to the ridged skulls and clawed feet allows them to pick up on the vibrations flowing through surfaces, meaning that a single misplaced footstep or even racing heartbeat could betray a prey's location. Closely tied to this is another ability, that being electroreception, which is a phenomenon seen commonly in sharks, rays, and certain fish that can detect electrical impulses from muscles and nerves. This ability gives them the ability to narrow down on a prey, even buried in sand. Given the biomechanical nature of the Xenomorph, that is part flesh and part machine, it seems very possible for them to be using the metallic cranial ridges, or specialized inner membranes, as conductive sensors. Then, there are also speculations of there existing more of a sixth sense in the creatures that goes beyond the biological domain, more into extrasensory. The fact that some Xenomorphs have been shown to locate hidden survivors or even sense the presence of the queen embryo inside Ripley in Alien 3 suggests they might use a combination of these abilities, or all of them together, be it vibrations, pheromones, and electrical impulses. This overlap of senses indicates that their hunting efficiency comes from layered detection methods that work together in unison. Looking at it from this perspective makes it seem that the Xenomorphs don't simply see their prey, but they perceive them. The scary part is that every comparison we try to draw, whether it be insects or sharks, represents the apex of sensory evolution. And if these senses truly overlap and amplify each other, then for a prey to try to outrun or outsmart them becomes nearly impossible. Total predator awareness. When you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes quite clear that not having a physical set of eyes is in no way holding back the Xenomorphs, or being of any sort of disadvantage to them. And this is because they have something far more efficient, and that is a total predator awareness. Each of their possible senses, be it through vibration detection, echolocation, pheromonal tracking, or electroreception, in its own way, is quite impressive and has a high probability of being very likely the reason why the Xenomorphs can function quite well even without sight. Now, what makes the whole thing terrifying is, what if there might be a possibility of all of these abilities coexisting and overlapping with each other, giving the Xenomorphs the ultimate fighting advantage? Simply put, the Xenomorph doesn't just rely on one system to track its prey. It has a biological network that ensures nothing can slip past it. Think about it. If you stay silent, it can still sense your body heat or electrical signals. If you mask your scent, it can still feel your vibration, even if you somehow trick its echolocation, its chemical sensitivity, and pheromone reading can betray you. If that's not a scary thought, I don't know what is. And the best part is that none of these systems exist in isolation. They layer on top of each other, forming a sensory safety net where, if one ability fails to do the job, the likelihood of that happening is next to impossible. There are still 3 more kicking in overdrive. This results in a monstrous creature, a perfect hunter that isn't just aware of its prey, but hyper-aware, processing multiple forms of environmental data at once and zeroing in with flawless precision. And this awareness doesn't only apply to individual hunting in hive settings. These senses intensify tenfold, with the hive in itself becoming a superorganism that may not be guided by sight, but instead by an invisible network of signals and senses. You might even be able to save yourself if you come face to face with a Xenomorph, but when you face a hive, know that you're done for. This, in fact, also explains their adaptability, since their survival doesn't rely solely on one fragile sense. They're free to thrive in virtually any environment, be it frozen wastelands, volcanic furnaces, or even a void of space. Marvelous verdict. So if you ask how Xenomorphs aim without eyes, the real answer is they don't have to aim, they just know. To them, every heartbeat, every breath, every step is already mapped out. And that's the scary part. You're never truly hidden from their gaze, because their gaze goes beyond just regular sight. Do you think Xenomorphs actually combine all these senses at once? Or is there one ability that does most of the work? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.